We're in kind of the kitchen area, which has a nice kitchen, a pool, billiard.
Pool table. The pool is like where you can swimming.
Pool table. We got 2 play seats over there.
Decent coffee machine.
Coffee machine. We got a fridge full of beverages. Not to spill the beans here, but you guys went to E2EVC.
E2EVC.
But you guys both look really
shit.
No, good. Like you haven't been to EVC.
I can still walk and talk. So I guess I completed it successfully.
While I do like the option of adding that, it's also a slippery slope in terms of supportability and sustainability of features and functions.
The differences between the metaverses. Oh man. No, and Omniverse. As Omniverse is more like the professional metaverse. People don't like me saying that probably.
I did not look at the reason why. The article just states that the black screen of death is going to be blue again in Windows 11.
At the third stroke, it will be...
Hello, beautiful people, and thank you for tuning in to the 11th edition of the EUCdigest ThrowDown. I am Ingmar Verheij, the host of this month's episode, and today I'm joined by Jits, Johan, and Kees, who've submitted some great topics for this episode. This will be a special edition, as we're recording in person, which is a first for the Throwdown episode. So a big shout out to IDQ, who was kind enough to let us use their recording studio today.
Woo! Woohoo! Yeah, thank you, IDQ.
Thank you. And this month, we've also opened another Clubhouse voice room, where everyone is free to drop in, join us live while we record, and you can participate and share your opinion. So when you are in the Clubhouse voice room, just raise your hand and we'll invite you to the stage and open your mic. But first, let us highlight our sponsor who makes it possible to create another episode of EUC content.
Liquidware provides adaptive workspace management solutions for all Windows desktops. The company's products encompass all facets of management to ensure the ultimate user experience across all workspaces, physical, virtual, DAS, or in the cloud.
There you go, Johan. Thank you for that shout out. And Johan, since we are in your office, let me start by asking you, how you doing?
Is that
awesome?
How you doing?
How you doing,
guys? It's an honor to have you over to the ITQ Hangout.
It's an impressive setup.
Well, although we are recording this also on video, but for those who only listen to this podcast, maybe how can we describe the Hangout here at ITQ?
Well, like many companies, we also had a kind of a transition during the first, or during the COVID period. We used to house in a big mansion, but the mansion itself was not really practical. And our senior management decided that it was a good idea to move over to a different building. And this building, this large floor that we are in right now, is basically one major big hangout. So we're in kind of the kitchen area, which has a nice kitchen, a pool, billiard.
Pool table. The pool is like where you can swimming.
Pool table. We got 2 play seats over there.
Decent coffee machine.
Coffee machine. We got a fridge full of beverages. And
The arcade.
The arcade, we have the arcade. We have, it's fun to be here. So that's the whole goal of the hangout. It's good to meet people, to have a coffee machine chat with colleagues, but also to have a good time while being here.
And while we take a peek at the arcade machine, we also see one of your colleagues, right, who's kindly enough to help us today.
Yeah, so we're not alone. We're not with just the 4 of us. Unfortunately, Eric couldn't be here.
Yep. Wish you well.
Big shout out to Eric. But we actually have a producer today who is managing all of this, and unfortunately, you aren't able to see him. But my colleague Hans, who is... he kind of won the let's call it the home recording setup game. He completely automated everything that happens within an ATEM switcher. He's kind of king of the ATEM switchers
and boss.
Yeah, and boss.
And boss. He's one of those people who make the rabbit hole even worse for us.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. It might if we ever gonna organize a real life event like an event, a proper event.
You would be
An
the
EUC
person.
Digest event.
Yeah. Why not?
Well, that was one of the initial plans, right? Podcast.
Is
events.
this an EUC Digest first? Is this like a sneak peek into the future, or are we not?
Yeah,
Maybe. But
Yeah.
we got ourselves a producer for that event, probably, right?
Producer found.
We're
he's
seeing
waving.
thumbs up. Yeah.
Yeah, and someone else who he is here as well. Our lovely Bas.
Bas van Kaam.
Bas van Kaam. He's part of the EUC Digest crew as well. Is taking pictures and doing stuff for social media. So
And Dockers.
and Dockers and stuff. So yeah, guys, we have a full room.
Yeah, it is. And thanks for having us again, Kees. Good seeing you again in person.
In person, yeah.
I
It's,
know.
it's good to see you guys as well. How are you doing?
You're doing pretty good. Thanks for asking. No, I'm doing really good. I mean, I'm looking across with Jits and Bas is there as well, who have just spent the entire weekend in Lisbon, and we'll cover why we were there. But it was so good seeing more people in person here again. Doing a recording like in person is definitely way different than doing it virtually. So it's
Talking about Bas, I think I received a phone call from the food delivery, but yeah, I guess so. 061707. No, never mind.
Yeah, so that's for the audience. We're having like a shit ton of sushi and sashimi and other. Like,
Yeah, we plan to be ready by
Yeah.
now, but unfortunately,
we're not, and we'll get there at some point.
Yeah.
Jits.
Yeah.
Did you survive the weekend? And again, it's good seeing you. And
yeah.
long time
That's
ago.
like a weird question to ask when somebody's sitting next to you and you're asking if you survived the weekend, isn't it?
well, you guys
Well,
don't look.
I definitely enjoyed the weekend, so it was very good to be at a real venue, meeting people, shaking hands, hugging. Maybe I don't know. Okay, that's too much. No, it
Hugging.
wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
Hugging.
Not to spill the beans here, but you guys went to E2EVC.
Yeah. E2EVC.
But you guys both look really
Shit.
good. Like you haven't been
your normal
to
state.
EVC.
I can still walk and talk. So
yeah,
I guess I completed it successfully.
Yeah,
Right.
I've seen you worse.
There you go.
Oh, but it was okay, right? All the beers were nicely sponsored.
It is. So, and
uh,
maybe that's a good segue into the first topic of today.
Oh, really? Yeah, of course. So we went to E2EVC in Lisbon, in Portugal. And of course, I think around, what was it, like 80, 85 attendees?
Yeah, around 80. Yeah.
Yep. And it was a hybrid event, so I'm not sure about the experience from the people who are listening or watching. Could you watch as well? Well, only the slides, right? So for those at home, I don't know whether the quality was good enough.
The physical
audio-wise.
attendance was great.
Absolutely, it was really good to be out there again, meeting people. So yeah, I really definitely enjoyed it, and it felt completely natural, of course. So no one. Yeah, it didn't felt really strange. So, but talking about E2EVC, of course, and since we are covering EUC Digest, Ingmar, was there any? And I know you went there primarily for socializing. While the decent coffee machine is doing his daily cleaning, I guess, in the back.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Go on.
No, that's okay, right? But no, any particular session that stuck to your mind?
That stood out. Well, I mean, the opening keynote is always interesting. Alex kicking off the event. Alex Cooper, he is, the organizer, or let's say just the host, organizing, maybe a big word for E2E. Kicking off the event. I mean, E2E is the way E2E is, or it used to call Pub Forum. That's what it is, right? So it is a gathering of people. There are sessions, and there's, some are super interesting, some are less. There's something for everyone.
And the agenda is always fluid.
It's a dynamic.
Yeah.
It's a dynamic agenda. By now, like on Sunday, the agenda is final. So when the event is over, that's when it's final, and that's good. It's all part of the character of the event, and
Absolutely.
that's why we're here. Why we're there. It was, to me, like the one reason going there is meeting people. So you can jump in and out of a session. You can attend whatever you want. If you don't want to attend, you just have a beer or maybe coffee whenever, what time it is. And that's what I've done mostly, just, meeting with people and just, chatting and talking about work and talking about social life. And that was just amazing. And as I said, I can still walk and talk. So I guess I survived the weekend properly.
And it's probably one of the few events where speakers are also drinking during their presentation.
Not always during. not always, but it happens.
Yeah.
I mean, so we'll cover them later. But like the first session is always ControlUp, their sponsor. So and they can take the first session after Alex started it off.
Yeah.
At some point, you never know what time it is that he kicks it off. But they start off, and whoever asks a good question, they will get a shot of whatever they have, like whiskey and whatnot. So and that's
Proper alcohol.
typically before noon. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That's why all the minibars in the hotel were empty, right? At least mine was, but
They
maybe
didn't
I
stock
should have
it for good reasons.
Yeah, but I should book a decent hotel the next time because there was nothing in my fridge.
There was enough beer, so that was good. No, it was a good conference. It's a good conference because it's about the people. And I thought you were going to ask a different question on the presenters, but presenters and attendees, they are just same, right? Normally, or most conferences, like, hey, there's a PM or someone else on stage, and they're like the big guy or the big girl, and then it's very difficult to approach those people. Whereas here, everyone is just very approachable, and everyone is helping each other. So most people who ask a question during a session is there to, it's kind of a seed question, like I'm going to help you with your session. I already knew the answer, but I'm going to help you just to make your point. And we're always helping each other, and that's just so nice.
Is that the difference between a community event and a vendor
I think
event?
so.
Well, that's one of the differences, but also, as Alex always tries to minimize all the marketing BS, of course, right? So it's highly technical for most of the sessions, and well, I really enjoyed Benny's sessions, or Benny Treach.
Session.
Yeah, as he did. Yeah, let's talk about more some real content maybe. But no, he was doing a session on EUC score, and for those who are familiar with his Rex analytics in the past, with the quadrants where you also saw the videos and also the telemetry on the performance or the resource consumption, and I really enjoyed that session. First of all, because the simulation of workloads. And all the effort that he puts into that and making it easy to use in an environment. That's first thing that I wanted to mention, that all the effort that he puts in there, well, just a big shout out because that's a huge task. But also the fact that his tool, Rex Analytics, is basically maybe the only tool that both displays the performance utilization as well as the perceived user experience. So, and those things are completely different. And I know Kees has covered a couple of sessions on this as well, like platform performance versus user experience. And what you saw also in one of his demos was that CPU utilization on a certain bench workload was really, well, a lot more like 15 to 20% increase. And this was without any WAN emulation. So this was a comparison with limited amount of bandwidth versus the full LAN scenario. As where with the full LAN scenario, you saw more CPU utilization. And this, of course, is just the example of the bandwidth, and you can also do this in different scenarios, as we all know. But if you only look at the data, you would think that, and again, this is just an example, that from a user density perspective, lower bandwidth is better. Yep. But you do not see the video output that you get a frame every month instead of like 24 frames per second. So, and this is why it's so important to also look at this really the perceived user experience. So, but no, you're nodding all the time, right? Yeah. So you want to pitch in here.
I absolutely agree on this topic. So most of the work that we do in my team is based on performance data and performance analytics, and having something that shows the actual output of the screen, like what an end user would see, is just immeasurable in terms of the value of the data. You could easily track what's going on in the back end, easily track what's going on in the host, on the VM itself. It's just much harder to track that data on the actual endpoint, and that's what Benny has done brilliantly, I have to say.
Yeah, and I second that. I mean, I've also quite a bit of interest in performance, and not just the computational performance, as you mentioned, on like CPU metrics or CPU wait time, whatever. These are super interesting metrics, but the perceived performance, like what is it actually that you see, and how would you quantify the perceived performance?
I know there's one guy that actually wrote a paper around quantifying perceived performance.
Yeah, something. Yeah, I did a bachelor, and this was my thesis, and therefore I wrote a white paper on quantifying perceived performance. But regardless, I mean, I've been working for Dynamic quite a bit. They did load testing, performance testing, and the one thing which I found super interesting is how do you translate that computational performance to perceived performance, and then what are the metrics that you're seeing? And it's never one or the other. It's always, I wouldn't say magic, but there's a science to it. It's a science and an art. And I think the solution of Benny is really helping in finding the balance between science and art. So that was super interesting. And he made it free for a community to use. So that's, a good shout out to Benny that he's doing that.
Check it out, EUC score.
There you go. .com, I guess.
Okay,
EUC score.
Keine Ahnung.
We
Just Google.
.de vielleicht.
Yeah.
Let me Google that for you.
There you go. And another session that I wanted to mention as well, what I enjoyed most is the session from Jen Shearing. She flew over from the US, which is quite interesting or quite special these days because it's not easy traveling to Europe coming from the US. And she did a session on Terraform, and I've never seen Terraform before, and it was just super interesting to not only see Terraform and how you can apply it, and in this case it was on an AVD environment, but also she really did a step-by-step guide essentially. You can join a GitHub repo, and there's, you can just visit that repo and then do it yourself. So there was a different session than always, and I knew she was very, very nervous, and then seeing her present so easy, so calm, and that was just super cool to see that she's just delivering really well. And that when she got the stage, I know anyone gets a stage at E2E, but then also taking the stage, it takes guts to do it. And she did it really well. So I just wanted to do that shout out.
Checked it, eucscore.com.
eucscore.com.
Well, I have to say that any hands-on, like real-time demo, like presentation always catches my attention, especially when they don't work.
And it's a bold move.
Or partly work.
It's a bold move doing that at E2E where, it's E2E, never do live demos, and then on a crappy Wi-Fi in Lisbon, I got to give it to her.
Dude, you remember my demo, right? Like the face recognition stuff I did? Like tunnel through Horizon 2 years ago in Berlin?
I guess it
Oh,
failed.
yes,
I guess it failed.
yeah.
No, it worked.
It worked,
It kind of worked. Shit ton of latency.
And again, this was in the basement of the same hotel chain as we went this year. But usually at E2E, you see, the Wi-Fi is something. It's optional, right? So we all have 4G, 5G.
It's part of the charm of the conference.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap up E2E. I think we've said a lot, but if you haven't attended, please do. And if you are planning on attending, see you there.
Well,
when is the next one?
It's a true experience. It's
Berlin?
the 10th
June?
till the 12th of June in 2022, obviously.
in Berlin.
In Berlin again.
We just discussed this, right? But it was actually one of my my first public presentations that I gave. So it's definitely a place where people can just step up and start presenting if you're interested in doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you're not getting coached there are so many people who are willing to coach you and
Absolutely.
Preparing to that. Good. So one of the loyal sponsors of E2E, we just mentioned them, and they always have the pleasure of being the first one, is ControlUp. And I think we all know ControlUp as that, the cool monitoring solution for Citrix, VMware, and other VDI solutions. And they've expanded their product quite a bit in the past years. They acquired Avasy last year. They now call themselves a digital experience monitoring solution. So ControlUp was in the news because they raised $100 million in a Series D round, making a total funding of 140. So that's quite substantial, coming from 40 to 100 millions. And at E2E, Eugene Kaliev from ControlUp informed the audience that they raised money will be used to grow their reach, which probably means they're hiring more salespeople in more regions and other people, and keep on expanding in the product. And I think it's great to see that getting them this investment so they can mature the product even further. I do expect them to go public probably next year, although an acquisition by one of the big vendors can happen as well. Maybe VMware, there's a similarity. I think that's unlikely, but I think it's good seeing them getting this investment. Also, what I liked about this investment is that it's coming from, I think it was like Israeli ventures. Yeah. So an Israeli venture capital investing in an Israeli tech company is just...
and it wasn't the first time, right? So they also invested in the first round.
In all 4 rounds they invested, so it shows the confidence that they have in this product. So congratulations obviously to ControlUp. And what are your thoughts on this investment and ControlUp,
So I'll go first, and then you guys can shoot on that. So there's 2 things that I think are important. One is the if they're able to succeed to expand the product, then I think they've got a unique position in the market. if you look at the way they're doing things with that Insight database, where they actually report utilization of systems into a centralized database, I envision that as at some point a la carte menu for people looking to size out their environment. If you go into that database and you can select that specific application that X amount of users are running from that platform, and you can determine the impact of that specific application or application update, that's really, really gold. That's a golden nugget right there. The other thing that I think ControlUp did really, really clever is to partner with VMware. So VMware stepped away from VROPS for, well, I'm looking at you, Jan, but you know this better than I do. But VMware stepped away from their own monitoring solution, and they're partnering now with ControlUp, probably because of the 80-20 rule, right? If it's good enough, they're offering that ControlUp as that premium tier. So I think that's really clever from ControlUp to do that and kind of leverage that relationship. Well,
VROPS would never intentionally build for VDI workloads. Everyone who's in EUC knows that one of the most important things of monitoring user experience is to see that in real time. If I get called by a customer or an end user that has a challenge, you want to directly see what the what the cause was, and VROPS has a delay of at least 5 minutes between recorded metrics and displayed metrics. So from a control perspective, I think, like you mentioned, it's a great solution. I do think it might need some more synergy between the different aspects of ControlUp. One of the things that really what they did really well is the extensibility of PowerShell.
Right.
So one of our Dutch community friends, Wouter Kirsten. Yeah, he works in professional services in ControlUp, and I believe that he built 200 scripts already that can be commonly used by the community to output stuff or to automate stuff, and that's one of the things that did really, really well. So there's a powerful repository of everything. I think
that could go two ways, right? So first of all, it's great to have kind of an extension into the product where you can add features and functionality that's not there at that point in time. On the other hand, you'll be leaning on community efforts to have that feature or functionality. So that means that you'll never. Well, you might be able to incorporate that into the product itself, but you have to kind of navigate around the nuances of adopting that feature because somebody else came up with that idea. So it's while I do like the option of adding that, it's also a slippery slope in terms of supportability and sustainability of features and functions.
Mm-hmm. But then again, I mean, if you see adoption, then you see traction, you can always decide on moving that to the core product and say, okay, then you no longer need that extensibility, that extended script. And it's now part of the product. I mean, credit where credit's due, obviously, and need to be mindful of what you do. And
exactly.
Especially, improving a program isn't always by saying yes to those changes. It's more about saying no. But having a kind of a marketplace of extensions, that's super powerful. But also hearing that professional services from ControlUp is building so much into the product.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. So is anyone going to acquire ControlUp, or is it just I'm now spreading rumors?
Well, I obviously don't know anything. We know that you don't know anything.
No, I know nothing.
From a timing perspective, do you recall exactly? Because I don't. When this partnership was announced and when this funding of ControlUp
last year
timeline.
Okay. So I think the support for VROPS for Horizon discontinued about a year ago, something like that.
Wasn't it just after they acquired Blue Medora?
It could be. I don't know it by heart, to be honest. But and there's new support. There's a new management pack created for Horizon, but still, it's not built for Horizon. It's great to monitor your general services, are your UAGs still online, are your connection servers online, but not from a user experience perspective. So you need something different for that. We'll see what happens here.
Yeah, we'll see.
Talking about VMware. I had a lengthy text, but we already chatted a lot, right? So I'm just going to skip it. But no one has missed this, right? So VMware has become a standalone company again. So split off, or I don't know. Yeah, well, at least the they're on their own again. And I was wondering, because I can imagine, of course, when you're part of like a vendor such as Dell, that can impact your the choices, or it does impact your choices that you make as an organization. But what are your thoughts, maybe Johan again, on the future of VMware now that they're more autonomy, basically?
Well, one of the things that VMware has been doing is trying to become more agnostic towards, first of all, cloud workloads.
Yeah.
And cloud doesn't necessarily have to do something with hardware, but if you look at some of the projects that were formed in the last couple of years, like Outpost from AWS, that is VMware had a similar project that purely ran on Dell EMC hardware. Yep. So it's VMware Cloud on Dell EMC. What I'm guessing is that VMware will be more agnostic towards different hardware vendors as well in terms of such a platform. And the same with the whole EUC stuff. So if you look at the support from like the OEM support in Workspace ONE, Dell EMC or Dell Technologies has like factory provisioning, stuff like that is already there.
VxRail.
They'll becoming like more agnostic towards the rest of the OEMs will be good for the ecosystem.
Definitely, yeah.
Around those solutions.
And I think especially on the multi-cloud, although that movement already started, of course, but working together with all the hyperscalers. And I can imagine when Dell is kind of calling the shots, well, to some extent, of course, but what do they gain out of this multi-cloud hyperscaler approach? Less. Right, so they have to reinvent themselves as well. So I think it's a good thing.
I guess it's good for customers as well. I think that if you look at Dell EMC or Dell Technologies, if you're referring to that, they've got a product portfolio that is massive. If you just look at their product portfolio slide, it's just it's almost giving you a headache. So many items is on that will be on that list. So having more clarity in terms of the product portfolio positioning and kind of who pitches what will be useful for customers as well, because it's not convoluting the discussion anymore.
Yeah, and especially the last years. I mean, the synergies there were synergies between Dell and VMware, but at some point the balance was off. And if you look at the prices now, the valuation of VMware versus the valuation of Dell, it's
really a strange situation.
It's really off, and that's also what led to this weird structure and why they needed to do this divorce. So I think it's very good for VMware, probably good for Dell as well. I mean, when Rocky Ram became the CEO, it was already clear, like, okay, we're going to focus on hybrid cloud, and I think that's the right strategy. You see this paying off already.
Yeah.
And I think now that they are like divorced from Dell, that's definitely going to happen. I was reading somewhere that they want to grow by acquisition, so they are really going to invest. I'm not sure when though, because I think they had to pay some interest. What was it?
Dividend.
Some dividend indeed.
To Dell. Because Dell needed to pay some debts
to the stakeholders or the shareholders, which is Michael Dell himself probably. So
and
there's
he
not
still is
exactly. Yeah. So there's not a lot of cash left. Then again, I mean, they will probably grow, and that's all good. Yeah. So I'm curious what will happen, but I think there's a bright future for VMware, and they're growing. They're adding new features.
Yeah, and talking about acquisitions and features and stuff like that, and also some things that came from the spin-off. So Boomi was part of Dell for quite a while, and got. Oh, I was hearing myself double.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, Boomi was part of Dell Boomi. They did a spin-off as well earlier this year, and they are now. I think they're bought by a larger investor. Boomi is now being integrated as it's a standalone solution. It's being integrated in Workspace ONE as well. The solution was already launched or was announced half a year ago, but now it's GA. So Workspace ONE Experience Workflows powered by Boomi is GA, and it also already contains out-of-the-box workflows that are available. So if you want to, you have 5 of them. For solutions like Salesforce or Concur, you can configure those solutions out of the box already, and it does contain already some extensibility to build your own workflows for Google-related platforms, or stuff that's out of the box already available. So it's really cool.
So what are your expectations on the growth of this product? I mean, VMware had this solution based on mobile flows, and I'm glad that they're deprecating it, because it was fundamentally flawed for this use case. I think it worked great for Boxer, but not really great for the kind of use case it has today. UI-wise, it's the same, right? So in Intelligent Hub, you'll get the same experience, except now it's based on Boomi. What is your expectation on the use case and the growth using Boomi?
Well, the major difference between mobile flows and experience flows by Boomi or powered by Boomi is that mobile flows was developer focused. So you need to custom develop your own integrations. With Boomi, that's completely different because of the low-code, no-code interface. I'm expecting, since there's a large ecosystem of developers, of partners already around that solution, that the ecosystem will grow, that the marketplace will grow, and that the adoption will grow as well. I think you are entitled to have 30 different integrations with the license, so it's part of Workspace 1, and if you exceed that, you have to pay for extra licenses. But I'm expecting growth, a lot of growth. From
I can imagine. I mean, out of the box are now 5, right? So there's room for growth, and I really hope, sincerely hope that the landscape's going to accept it and embrace it. So the partners and the customers, and start expanding on like the availabilities as they are today. I did see like the out of the box templates are VMware specific. I mean, Boomi has like a huge catalog of integrations, and you can do a lot of orchestration in there. That's why it's an iPaaS. Yeah. So I do hope that others will start picking it up as they've done, slightly with mobile flows, but it was developer heavy, and it was some challenges with that. What's going to happen with Quick Actions? Quick Actions was announced as on the roadmap at VMworld. I haven't seen anything on that during the GA announcement. Maybe maybe you don't, but
I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, so the quick actions.
That was quick.
That was quick. That was a quick action. I mean, the experience workflows are typically like actionable notifications. So they pop up in your Intelligent Hub and you can respond or not, depending on the notification. And quick actions are the user-initiated actions. So you don't have to wait for an event to pop up. You can say like, hey, I'm going to request something, or I'm going to kick off a workflow, essentially.
Unsure. We'll dive into that in the next throwdown.
So the one thing that pops into my mind is when there's Workspace 1 experience workflows powered by Boomi, is there also a Workspace 1 experience workflow period?
Not powered by...
Now,
what marketing genius came up with this?
Dude, my guess is that, it's a rough guess. I have no knowledge of this again, but I'm guessing that Boomi will be acquired somewhere in the next year. And I think they spun off in June. It won't be a surprise if.
You're tracking this market.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Would that make sense?
It could be that VMware acquires them, but then again, they got sold. So VMware got spin off from Dell. Boomi got sold for $4 billion in let's say half one of 2021. Just the other day, Workado, which is another leader in iPaaS space, they just have a new round of funding, $200 million. They were valuated at 5.7. You could debate which one is worth more, but if you got sold for $4 billion to by a capital investor, they want a return on investment. Yeah. So with $4 billion ain't gonna cut it. I'm not sure how deep the pockets of VMware are, but I personally don't think they will get acquired simply because, like an iPaaS is so massive, it's such a different use case, such a different market. It's not the market of VMware. It doesn't really help them acquiring them. You could say maybe at some point, depending on customer demand, they will open up for other iPaaSes, like a MuleSoft or Workado, those things, because what's VMware gaining by acquiring them, except for, just throwing away $4 or $5 billion?
Competitive advantage.
Well, but it also will depend on how integrated the solution will be and how heavily the user experience sold by VMware is depending on that solution.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And I think, future have to see. I've only seen it in video so far and some screenshots and stuff.
I played around with it last week and tried to configure my own integration.
What was your experience?
Well, he tried to. So
what was the
tells
objective?
story.
Which workflow?
Well, long story
Okay.
short, I tried to configure my Google Workspaces into it, and some things worked quite easy. The other stuff was a bit more
Challenging.
a bit more challenging. But
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, it's an iPaaS. It's
Yeah.
a mature enterprise iPaaS. It's not that you can just open it up and expect it to work, right? It
No.
is. It's a complicated solution, which is it still is low code, and that's good. Not every iPaaS is going to work out of the box just that easy.
That's an interesting comment, though. Why shouldn't you expect it to work out of the box?
It would not. It works out of the box, but don't expect that you can get all the bells and whistles that a product features. That it's like
Provides you only the tools, right?
a fool with a tool is
no.
still a fool. Yeah, no, but I mean,
Are you are you calling Johan a fool now?
not by any means, absolutely not. But
you could try.
I mean, Boomi
punch you
and
in
any
the
others.
face.
I mean, one of the competitive differences of Workato, for instance, is the how friendly the UI is. So it's has a lower barrier of adoption. But even that, I mean, if you are connecting various systems of record with multiple authentication systems, you at least have to understand a bit how that works, and that just takes takes some time, and that's fine. I mean, the question is more, how is the interaction, how is the connection with VMware? Because that's where complexity comes in, right? You're switching between vendors. But yeah, it's. I mean, I find it super interesting because it's kind of it's quite similar to Citrix micro apps. I'm glad that it's getting acknowledged that this is a use case, and this is there's an interest in the market. So VMware stepping in and investing in a relationship with Boomi. They were both married to Dell. They're both divorced, so it makes sense that they choose Boomi for that.
Talking about Citrix.
Yep. Citrix Converge has just been just took place. So it's a Citrix annual developer conference. Thank you for that segue. And Citrix announced a new Citrix Community Lab pilot. So this is a low-cost community lab program that will provide access to downloads and lab licenses for a range of Citrix products, both on-prem and in the Citrix Cloud. And the participants of the program will be able to install on-premises products on their own hardware or virtual machines in the public cloud, whatever they choose. And the intention is to combine rich functionality with just enough scale to be useful as a tool for learning and experimenting in a lab setting. Obviously, they're not allowed to be used in a production environment. And on Twitter, I did read that it includes like 80 hours a month of access to Citrix apps and desktop service premium. So that's the top tier. Free of charge for 3 months, probably early 2022. It's a pilot. So people need to apply they can apply until November 30th. And then 100 randomly selected participants will gain access to the pilot version of the program. I'm happy to see that Citrix is giving something back to the community, especially those lab licenses and cloud environments. It has been very difficult to get your hands on that. And the only way you can learn a product is by experimenting on it. I mean, to be fair, in the past, it was easy to use Citrix products or whatever, or whatnot in your on-prem data center, your own lab, by having a license. And that's different in this world. So it is a pilot, and I hope this becomes a success, honestly.
What was the... first of all, this is awesome. I think Citrix offering like lab environments for people to test their solutions, that's really good. And it's fairly easy for cloud-related products, but especially for, let's take CVAD. You need a proper amount of resources to make that work and to run a virtual desktop. And it's not as easy as a SaaS solution to provide access to. Now, what was the lab? And I know Case knows the lab solution that got acquired by Oracle.
Oh, Jesus.
That's a weird name for a product.
Yeah,
No, I know the product.
that was awesome. So you had like a canvas. You could like build your VMs.
Yep.
And as a vExpert or
Yeah.
like
No, I know exactly what you mean. I can, while you're describing this, I can
Yeah.
actually see the UI.
This is from a while back, right?
Yeah.
like 5 years ago, so 4 or 5 years ago. But that was one of the best lab agnostic lab environments available, but they completely killed it.
Any idea why?
Cost, I guess. Yeah.
Probably,
That makes sense.
but they oversubscribed a lot. But the dude, I ran like permanent monitor solutions for all my websites there, and they could just run 24/7 without any issues. So
Free resources.
yeah.
But that's the thing, right? With all those cloud services.
Ravello, yeah.
Sorry, took a while.
Case just Googled it. There you go.
No. it just popped up.
Okay.
So while I was googling it, it popped up in my mind.
What was the name again?
Ravello.
Ravello, yeah.
Not Tanzu?
No.
That's a different...
Otherwise, I
No,
would
that's
have
for
said,
Dockers and stuff.
otherwise I would have said Tanzu.
This is going to be a running joke, right?
It will be.
Yeah.
This will be returning.
So,
But
but were you able to run any Docker containers in Ravello?
Yes, and stuff.
And stuff.
So I can tell you, I think in the Citrix community lab pilot, I don't think you can run Docker containers. Maybe
You should.
based on it.
Well,
But yeah, no.
technically, you could potentially run at least containers if the Windows would opt in for a WSL.
I think we're getting off track here.
I'm sorry.
No.
Talking about running those containers, there is also a launch of NVIDIA Launchpad, and this is where you can actually run these containers.
There you go.
Yeah. So.
This episode is sponsored by Nope.
Docker, yeah. But I mean, just coming back to the topic, I think, this is good. I mean, it's great that if you want to use Citrix products, that there's something available. I mean, VMware has a similar program. It's part of I think it's part of a partner program or something, which is awesome.
Test Drive.
Test Drive, indeed. That's just awesome. And I
We've
mean,
got a test drive as well.
Oh, really? Nice.
I used to play Test Drive as well.
We have a
Yeah.
test drive together with VMware.
And,
GPU accelerated test drives.
But I mean, I think what you just said on like the use of cloud services, that's a problem for those vendors, right? I mean, if each time you get a trial request for a cloud service, there's cost. I mean, there's a cost of goods to that, and the more trials getting requested, which are either not used or misused, that's going to affect in the end the price of that you're going to pay because those costs will be made. So I hope that the people who are applying for this pilot program, that they use it well and that they. I mean, it's a pilot. Right, it's not GA, so I hope that everyone who uses this is, being sensible here.
I'd add to that because I've seen the effort going into this program. I know the people who are working on this, and they're quite serious around, the program around making sure that that Citrix is actually offering these licenses towards people. So if you're thinking about applying, that's great, but take it with a decent amount of responsibility and ownership because there's cost to it, and like you said, it's a pilot, and if it's successful, then it might be expanded to a broader audience. So if you're kind of thinking of going into this program, make sure that you actually kind of set aside the time and the effort to utilize these opportunity to the fullest.
Agreed. Yeah, and I mean, yeah. I wanted to make a clever segue here from it's good having a virtual environment that reflects the physical world, and then moving into Metaverse. But maybe you can announce this one.
I think Johan did better with this segue.
Yeah, he's better at it. Yeah.
Okay, let's start. Like the headline is called Facebook announced Metaverse, but Facebook has announced that they're not going to be called Facebook anymore.
Yeah, they're Metaverse now.
They're Meta.
Yeah.
So they're no longer identifying as Facebook.
The company
It's
complicated.
complicated.
It's complicated. Yeah.
Facebook has changed its status.
The company formerly known as Facebook.
Yeah.
They announced the Metaverse, and it's kind of an alternative 3D based or multi-dimensional based environment in which you can do stuff. And
Dockers
Dockers and stuff. Well, it's a new platform that they try to get as extensible as possible to open up to other companies as well, and to basically present your content or your solutions to in an extended reality way.
Yeah,
but it was not only Facebook, right? I mean, immediately also Microsoft announced their Metaverse.
No.
No.
I'm gonna stop. They were first. Well, they were way before Facebook.
Hold on.
Oh, hold your horses.
I remember a couple of GTCs back that Jensen Wang from NVIDIA was already... Yeah, there we go again. Where we talked about the Metaverse, and now overnight we had to change everything. But but I watched this a couple of parts at the Ignite keynote on the Metaverse. Mm-hmm. You look surprised that I watched a couple of parts.
No, I'm just nodding. Okay. It's great.
No. First of all, well, of course, Satya Nadella, he was focusing on 4 key trends. The hybrid workspace, which we all can relate to, of course, the hyper-connected business, every business becomes a digital business, and of course, cybersecurity. But I especially like that part of the metaverse, and as Johan just mentioned, like this is the 3D world, or as you said, multiple worlds, where you can interact, where you have an immersive experience, or where you can collaborate. And especially in the world of EUC, I would definitely see a completely different way of how we collaborate as human beings. During this pandemic and even far after, we will all be still remembering the enjoyable team meetings or any other collaboration tool, team meetings. Now, Kees is giving me the eye.
Enjoying in Teams meetings in the same sentence.
No, that was a little bit sarcasm there, but
you're pushing the boundaries of reality, which is makes sense in the metaverse.
I think he's in his own metaverse right now.
No, but I definitely like this metaverse that also Microsoft described, where people, places, and things all come together, and where you can collaborate with basically everyone, anywhere. With your own 3D avatar in the future, and this also takes me back to the podcast with Chris Matthew, where he said well, we need to bring the phone booth back into to our infrastructure. You can utilize these to create a 3D scan each and every day of you, right? So then you can collaborate with your 3D avatar.
And I mean, yes, I don't think it's. I mean, the worst avatar is probably already overused, because I think, and then everyone is like, okay, I just saw this Teams presentation. There's an avatar, and that's Metaverse. But to me, it's really like combining the digital and the physical world, and then reflecting on the other, like the gaming industry or let's say personal life. Niantic, they have been building the Metaverse for quite a bit, and actually quite heavily used pre-pandemic, when everyone was outside, like trying to catch Pokemons, and that's bringing not only like a building a virtual world where everything is coming together. They're doing the opposite, because they're bringing physical people to the digital world. So using the metaverse, they're making sure that people are collaborating. And the metaverse by both Facebook, by Microsoft, I heard something from NVIDIA as well. Isn't that Omniverse?
Omniverse, indeed, yeah. But that will be the other way around, right? We start off with the digital world, and we're making a physical twin.
I think I saw a virtual, like a 3D avatar of Jensen, right?
Yeah. That's toy me.
Yeah.
But guys, there's one major difference. I'm kind of opinionated. I
really?
Dude.
That's why you're here.
Yeah. No, but I love everything currently that has to do with extended reality. You guys all saw my. Kees didn't, but you guys.
Well, I saw the field demo.
Saw my
Ingmar
my live demo.
Polite enough to record it.
Yeah, of Workspace ONE XR Hub.
Yep.
But quite honestly, we're not there yet.
Definitely not.
And that's one big difference, I think, between Omniverse from NVIDIA and the announced metaverses. Mm-hmm. That the metaverses that have been announced currently, they're great for gamers. They're great for
consumer-focused
solutions, and that's the big difference between Omniverse, which was like announced last year, 2 years ago, I think, at GTC, which is a great segue into the next topic.
It was holodeck in the beginning,
Yeah, but the difference is that existing solutions from companies like Dassault Systems or like a solution like AutoCAD already has the ability to extend into Omniverse quite easily, relatively easy. And I think that's where the biggest difference lies, that Omniverse is primarily focused at delivering enterprise solutions and providing specific solutions to the business.
But would it be safe to say that, if you have adoption in the consumer grade market, it will flow into the enterprise, like we've seen with Windows so many times, with Office so many times?
I would say that the things that both Meta or Facebook and Microsoft announce is more platform play. It's more about building the foundational layers for a virtual world where enterprises can plug in. And then, yes, you will combine this with VR and all the like the avatars and having a digital twin of yourself, or a physical twin of your digital world. But it's about, they want to provide a platform where you can actually start collaborating with each other and have interactions like Chris Matthew and his solution with spatial audio. There, you first need a world, like a foundational world where you can start actually collaborating. And then all the other solutions plug in, like, are you a phone, are you a person, or are you like an avatar or a Pokemon in that world? That doesn't really matter. But building the foundational layer where people plug in the enterprise, I mean, we're not there yet.
No. But that's completely right, and that's also what Johan mentioned on the differences between the metaverses. Oh man, no, and Omniverse. As Omniverse is more like the professional metaverse. People don't like me saying that probably, but
so you're saying NVIDIA is professional and Microsoft is
no, definitely okay. No, and I think if you compare Facebook, that's more on the consumer focus, I guess, but it will definitely help also with the adoption in the enterprise market with Microsoft. But if you look at Omniverse, this is specifically targeted at a certain specific use cases in AAC, media and entertainment, manufacturing, digital twins of factories, for example, or physical twins in the future. But exactly as, and it relates to also what you said, Ingmar, if you look at Omniverse, that's the platform where you have this 3D collaboration with these applications. So you need to create all these plugins or connectors, as we call them. And these are connectors that you install and that connect applications like 3ds Max, Revit, SolidWorks, Unreal Engine, etc. And you connect them all to, in this case, the Nucleus instance, which is part of Omniverse. And this allows you to have a team that is scattered all over the world, work all simultaneously with the same data set, and they can see each other changes while working with their own applications. So this will definitely simplify, if you look at manufacturing, for example, how a product will eventually be produced. The entire design process, all the iterations that you need to go through by importing, exporting, making changes, start over, etc. This can be done centrally on the Omniverse, or within the Omniverse. So I think, as you just described, you need to create this platform where others can tap into. And this is something that is, Omniverse Enterprise was launched, so this is available.
Yet, and just as I'm just listening in and trying to wrap my thoughts around it. But how would you solve the data locality problem or the data gravity problem with Omniverse, as you'd have multiple people from different geos or different locations at least working on the same data set?
Well, that's the big difference also between Omniverse and the metaverses, because the metaverses were announced as like the new internet, or the multi-dimensional internet, and completely built like the internet. So everything is kind of decentral but tied to each other. I think that's the main difference with Omniverse, because it's you're first of all, you're building the environment yourself. Mm-hmm. You're building it, and then you're tying the solutions into it.
But yeah, what you said basically on the internet, like what HTML is for the internet is USD, Universal Scene Description, from Pixar for this Omniverse. But still, and this allows you to basically, if you're working in application A, to export the data on demand or live with live sync directly to in USD format to this Nucleus instance. But this doesn't really, it does solve a lot, of course, because now you can also use it within other applications. Mm-hmm. So
data becomes interchangeable.
Yeah, but you still, as you originally asked the question on data locality, but this is the same as with VDI, for example. Mm-hmm. You need to bring these workloads to a centralized environment, but you can also have a decentralized Nucleus instance running that takes care of this data locality issue. So,
guess doesn't surprise you that I would mention the distributed fabric or distributed
from
data.
Who?
Just in general, the technology. Like Nutanix is not the only one doing that, but we're the best. That's to be said.
Sorry, come again?
No, but
aren't they doing all like Dockers and stuff?
That too, yeah. But the whole idea would be to have, or the way to, one of the ways to solve that problem is distributed fabrics.
Yep.
Where you can have distributed.
I think you're right, but I think you're way ahead of where we are and the challenges that they are facing. And by the way, I don't agree entirely with, not yet, with the difference between NVIDIA and Microsoft or Facebook. Facebook is not just a consumer play; it is an enterprise focus with Workplace. This is one of the foundational components that they have on or options that they have on building an enterprise. They want to build a world where you can start collaborating, where your workplace is virtual, it's an augmented environment. How it's going to look, I have no clue. Same goes for Microsoft. But it's not just about bringing avatars or bringing like computer screens in there. Having a phone rendered in a random world and Microsoft building the foundational layer, I don't think there will be a lot of difference between the Omniverse you just described and the intent of Microsoft. I don't know how far they are. I mean, I'm not part of any program where they've shown it, but I would never underestimate Microsoft in that sense. Or Facebook. I mean, Facebook has so much money, so much power, so much development. There's so much knowledge already. I mean, if there's anyone...
They've got so much data.
They have so much data. I just want to get there. Like
centralized or?
If there's anyone who can do facial recognition, they do
Facebook.
This better than FBI, CIA,
and who helped them
KGB.
with tagging all those people, right? We were training their algorithm.
personally.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's what's the tagging all about, right?
So then imagine the possibilities having all that kind of data and processing power and a customer base, and which typically are free by now. But imagine what they can build by having that amount of
Was this also a free tip of stocks or?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I would not go for that advice from myself.
That's a different
Maybe we
podcast,
should
right?
do crypto at some
Cryptocurrency.
point.
I know some people who are pretty good at giving pretty damn bad advices, but I told Barry not to make any of those jokes anymore. Is there anything else that from GTC that you wanted to highlight beside the Omniverse?
Well, we briefly covered the NVIDIA Omniverse avatar. So, and I definitely would recommend for those who've not seen it yet, go check it out. I mean, it's a lengthy GTC keynote, but there are certain smaller clips. And as GTC has always been focusing around the developers, and it's also a glimpse into the future. So it's not everything that's ready to use off-the-shelf product. That's also not our strategy with a lot of SDKs that we deliver. So I keep saying we, right? Although I'm not sitting here representing NVIDIA, but so a lot of like building blocks that are available, over 150 SDKs that are available. But if you look at this little avatar, this toy me, where Jensen was basically answering a couple of questions, all the technology that is behind that, and it is very easy to just forget it. But if you look at speech, for example, text to speech, that's the Riva solution or SDK, natural language understanding. If you see what and this was also mentioned during the keynote with Satya Nadella. Previously, the largest model that people were working on was 175 billion parameters, and now together with Microsoft, we're training on 530 billion parameters just to do natural language understanding for a avatar when you talk to it. And this is something, maybe a kiosk in the future in a store, that you just ask any random question, it needs to look it up and provides an answer instantly, right? You're not going to wait for 5 minutes before an answer pops up.
Can we bring this back to? I mean, there's a lot of sessions and a lot of things. I'm not going to watch the keynote. Maybe you can summarize what are the highlights from an EUC perspective, right? So, I mean, the Metaverse, Omniverse, that
Cloud XR.
That could be a workspace, right? So that could be your future place where you get your work done.
Well,
what are the
today,
other?
Mormy? And if I have to take another one, and I think, or I hope Johan would agree with me on this, is Cloud XR.
Yeah.
The extended reality, where virtual reality, augmented reality basically becomes available in a more VDI type scenario, where you can stream all these frames without getting any motion sickness to a HMD. And I think, Johan, you did a couple.
Just for the people who are not aware, what's an HMD?
It's a head-mounted display, so it's basically a standalone, preferably a standalone type of VR AR device,
Like the Oculus Rift and
Quest,
and the
like
Quest.
the Oculus Quest 1, 2.
Who owns that stuff?
HTC 5.
Meta.
Oh,
See, there you go.
yeah.
But
It's all coming together.
and that's a demo that we've seen you do
Yeah,
last 2 weeks.
At
2
IGEL.
weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the IGEL event. Yeah.
And so, for those who haven't seen the demo, can you please talk us through the demo? Why this? I mean, XR Hub impressed me a lot, but can you tell the audience what that was?
Yeah, definitely. So, Workspace ONE XR Hub is a solution from VMware in which they collaborate with NVIDIA. XR Hub does a couple of things. Two are more related to the security side of things and device enrollment of an HMD. So an HMD basically is like an Android device which you can enroll in Workspace ONE. You can manage it, etc. But one of the coolest aspects of XR Hub is the integration with Cloud XR. And Cloud XR is basically a connection protocol like, Blast Extreme or...
HDX, piece over P.
Yeah. And
HDX is not a protocol.
No.
And whatnot.
ICA.
And whatnot. Yeah, and whatnot. But the thing with Cloud XR is that it's built for VR. VR has one nasty aspect is that it requires a high frame rate to avoid motion sickness. And what it does is instead of, if you have latency or experiencing some jitter, Cloud XR still makes sure that you have 72 frames per second bitrate per eye, and it just compresses the frame. So in case you have latency, if you're looking at someone in the metaverse, they might look like an 8-bit Mario plumber instead of a real plumber.
For some people, I prefer that.
Yeah. But still, it's completely it offers a great user experience. And Cloud XR by itself is an SDK, so you can download the SDK with a client that you can run on a device.
Yeah.
And this is where VMware teams with NVIDIA. So they offer the integration of the Cloud XR SDK into the Workspace ONE client, so you don't have to build your own solutions to run Cloud XR.
Yeah, and I think that's what bringing AR, VR, or mixed reality closer. So this is VR, but bringing this closer to reality in the enterprise. I mean, this
And
is
also more
definitely-
mobile.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Easier
it's-
to consume.
Yeah, exactly.
Not always tethered to a big fat clunky
But
PC
so far,
or
using
big
VR
backpack.
in an organization has been difficult and clunky. Also
Yeah.
because the use cases weren't there, and the
Yeah.
solutions. I mean, you
need
need
to
so
set
many
it up,
components. But you need the use case, you need the software, you need the HMD, you need the software to maintain. All the bits and pieces now coming together.
I love it when a plan comes together.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And we
So
got 5G, right? So that's also one of the
free
great advantages.
free injected, 5G.
Free inject. No, that's the 2G. No.
That's another different G. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have time for one tiny spare topic?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
No, but please go ahead.
Oh, dude, spare topics are kind of cases thing, but Microsoft is changing from the black screen of death to the traditional blue screen of death.
Yeah, isn't that awesome?
Oh, nice.
So
yeah.
can anyone explain why? Because I only remember the purple screen of that, so I've missed.
Oh, but the purple one is from VMware.
Yeah, that's a
So
different,
the
different
blue screen
operating
of death is the original Microsoft thing.
You've never
I
seen
think-
one of those,
As
right?
long as it dies, I'm good.
Oh, dude, I think it's just a user experience thing. People know the blue
Yeah.
one, so they
They feel at home, like the blue screen.
No, but
crap,
nothing
crashed
gets you going on a Monday morning like a blue screen, right? That's your typical Blue Monday.
Yeah. But Kees, you submitted this topic. Do you know why? What's the rationale behind this?
I'm just trying to look it up.
Thanks for preparing.
I did not look at the reason why. The article just states that the black screen of death is going to be blue again in Windows 11. There's no other language in the update notes to indicate anything else than it's going to be like the previous versions.
So maybe we should suggest another color for.
Maybe if someone from Microsoft can chime
Well, I
in
mean,
by now.
I just googled the black screen of death, and it looks kind of sad, doesn't it?
There is a blue QR
Oh, yeah,
code.
Yeah.
Just
Oh,
for the people who are not watching the
I would
stream.
definitely not enjoy that one.
No. But hey, I mean, we are planning a session with a Microsoft PM. So maybe he has the answer. We should probably ask him in advance so he can prepare this. But I think this is going to be one of those.
He'll know. We'll just ask him.
It's pretty geeky, so it's going to be super interesting podcast for sure. This is the time where we're going to wrap up.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good. So thank you. Thank you everyone for sticking with us until the end. See, doing it in person, sticking. Hit us with a stick.
Well, for all the Dutch one, we're not talking about suffocation.
Thank you for listening and your support. You guys as well. Thank you for your support in this closure. Do not forget. Thank you, Hans, for
Producer Hans.
the producer. Thank you guys for being here, and being awesome. For the audience, thank you for still listening to this rambling. Don't forget to like these videos on YouTube. Leave a comment. As you do about Dockers and stuff or other interesting comments that you have. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you have a topic you'd like us to discuss in the next month, or maybe you just want to stay in touch, maybe you want to submit a session, propose a guest, reach out to us on the social channels or by email on podcast@EUCdigest.
What's for dinner?
.com.
What's for dinner?
What's for dinner?
Sushi.
You ordered.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Dude,
For
let's
now,
go.
I want to thank you for listening. Wish you well, and we'll meet again in the next episode of the EUC Digest Throwdown.